I tested.
Thank you. Welcome, everyone, to the First Ones to Die podcast. I am Jonathan. I'm here with Alex and Jerome. How was your guys' week? It's been a minute. Jerome, how was your week? You had a birthday this week?
Yeah.
I'm 1 year older, or rather, I've survived yet another year.
That's the better way to put it. Yeah.
To continue to be bitter going forward in more
maybe
years.
not the best way to put it now.
No, my birthday was cool. I had a good week. I just was busy with work, but then also got to hang out with some friends, did a table read for a show that I want to hopefully get made. It's going to be a script competition, so not that the audience can really help me in any way, but do root for me. And if you're religious, say some prayers on my behalf. Get whatever God of choice that you drink, much like soda, and just have them come down and rain their blessings on me like salt on French fries. There we go.
Amen. All right. You never know. Hey, you never know. Somebody could be helping you out with the script who's listening to this podcast right now. Steven Spielberg could be listening and tuning in. He could be one of our fans from California. We check the stats. Alex, how was your week?
Not as exciting as that. I'll say that much. I'm good. I haven't did much. I got to go see a movie we're reviewing with Jonathan. Jerome, I'm looking at you. I got to see the movie with Jerome and Kaylee, and it was great to see Kaylee. I haven't seen her. I don't know how long it's been now, so it was really great to see her and just catch up with her for a moment, which, and I got to hug her, which has been nice because we're all vaccinated. If you haven't been vaccinated, go get vaccinated. So there was less of a fear, and I know she practices social distancing, and so do I, so it was a nice comforting feeling to be able to hug people again. Jerome made it weird though. He gave me a hug and said he missed hugging me. And
I missed hugging Alex. All right.
It made it weird. You don't make that comment when you're just hug somebody and yeah. It got a little weird.
Alex is
it got
like
weird, and then he's like, "I love you," and then I'm like, "Whoa."
I just being next to people physically, especially my podcast co-host, who I don't see. I see virtually, but I don't see in person very often.
How are you doing, Jonathan?
Oh, wait. Also, real quick, I wanted to mention also congratulations to the Milwaukee Bucks for winning the NBA Finals. I've been watching the whole time. I was rooting for you, even though I don't have a specific NBA team. Giannis, the Greek Freak, also as he's known in the NBA. Congratulations, brother. Hope you're enjoying yourself and stuff. Yeah.
And Jonathan, now I'm actually asking you.
Well, I didn't win the NBA Finals, but I had a showcase this week for my acting school, and that was a lot of fun. We had our last class today, so it felt like the last day of school, and everyone was like, "Jonathan, when are you going to come to the UK?" And I was like, "I don't know. Coronavirus is up in these streets, but I'm going to try to come soon." So that's definitely going to be my next destination. And that was fun. There's been a lot going on like recently and this week. So I'm glad to check another thing off and that the classes are done and that we got to showcase our stuff.
And I got to be at that showcase, which was great. I enjoyed it a lot. Very proud of you.
Yeah, thank you. But I was there in spirit.
I won't lie. I did have to like dip out of watching you guys for like a second or two because I was at work.
I figured that.
I genuinely got worried because at the beginning, I'm assuming your teacher goes, "Hey, can you mute your guys' mics? The audience." And right as he said that, I got a call. So I talked so softly. I was like, "This is the orthopedic department. What can I help you with?" Trying to make sure that they don't hear me. I'm like, okay, I don't think they can hear me.
Were they just like, "Are you okay, ma'am?" I need to.
I don't think they noticed until I was like, okay, let me put you on hold. And they're like, I'm having a hard time here. I'm like, yeah, just 1 second. So, but then I realized y'all can hear me, so it's fine. But I did enjoy it, and I liked your character, Marcus, and I loved your line. I don't know how you guys do in the UK, but in the US, we don't screw our friends over, which I was like, oh.
The funny thing is, I wrote that line.
Oh, did you? Oh, come on, man.
But it does have it shows the hypocrisy of the character.
It's a very American line to say.
Yes,
so
I
it
agree.
is very accurate, but it's the one that stuck with me the most. I'm like, yeah, I could see an American hanging out with UK people saying shit like that and being like, oh. Like, okay.
Yes.
All right, so
well, speaking of lines and acting and directing, Olds.
Yeah, speaking of movies,
yes.
we saw one.
We did. Olds. It is, and I'm not on my game. I'm not on the IMDb, so I don't have the official.
Neither
IMDb
am I. You be quite honest. I got it. Not at all.
You do. Okay,
I'm
Alex,
prepared.
you can take the reins and read the synopsis for,
I may not
for our
be prepared
viewers.
in my real life, but I'm prepared for here.
There we
synopsis: a thriller about a family on a tropical holiday who discover that the secluded beach where they are relaxing for a few hours is somehow causing them to age rapidly, reducing their entire lives into a single day.
Wow, brilliant! That was a brilliant reading.
Thank you.
I appreciate you. Yes. So basically, if you don't know how our reviews go, first we do a non-spoiler section where we just throw out our general thoughts of the film, talk about what we maybe liked, disliked in a general sense. Then we'll warn you of our spoiler section when we'll dive into all the spoiler action of the film. And we might debate and fight here and there. Warning. So, what did you guys think of Old? And I'll start with Jerome because I know you said you had short and concise thoughts about this film, so I want to hear some of them.
This film is it's left me confused. It has. For those who don't know, the consensus over across the internet is either people think this movie is at like Happening levels bad from M. Night Shyamalan, or they think it's like an Unbreakable of like a is it bad or is it good? You know, M. Night Shyamalan movie. And for me personally, I think I'm down the middle where I'm just like, this movie is not awful. There's definitely some fun stuff about it. Also, I thought some of the thriller elements were really good and really cool. There's also some cinematography choices that I think are unique and sometimes work really well for the story. However, at the same time, the dialogue in this is really weird and clunky, at times super wooden. Sometimes those cinematography choices don't always pan out. No pun intended, because panning. And and also the story at times feels like it kind of loses steam in the middle part of it for me, compared to the beginning and the end. So those are like some quick thoughts that I have about the film. I'll get into more in the spoilers later, but from just a general standpoint, I'm really just kind of not overwhelmed or underwhelmed. I'm just whelmed. I think that's the best way to describe like how I'm feeling about this movie right now. Like after thinking about it.
When did you guys see it? Did you guys see it yesterday?
Yeah, saw yesterday.
Okay, so you've had a day to process.
Yeah.
And how about you, Alex?
I enjoyed it. It was fun. It may have just been the fact that it was the first movie I've seen in theaters in a really long time. So literally over a year. So I might have enjoyed it a little more. He is right. There's some parts that just dropped off where they were just having these moments and sitting and talking, and it was just like, well, for people who are like figuring out that time is moving so rapidly, you'd think there'd be more urgency to them. but there really wasn't. And at certain points, it was like nobody's making up a plan. And then there were times where it's like you really should have focused on this more than this. And I think it could have been, I like the concept. I actually enjoyed the idea and the little twist that was there. I actually thought it was a good twist.
Mm-hmm.
It was weird, but it was a good twist. A big issue I had with this movie was what was the nationality of the main family?
French.
But why weren't the kids French?
They were French.
No,
Maddox had a French accent.
Wait,
those
but
kids sounded.
Gail Garcia Bernal is Mexican and had a Mexican accent.
Or are they Mexican?
He had a Spaniard accent, really.
Okay, they might
He
be
had
Spanish.
French.
I thought they were French.
The little girl did not
the
have
comic's
a
French, I think.
Oh, the little girl and the little boy both had American accents. They did not sound French at all.
They do later because like the Thomas and McKenzie has a bit of an accent, but then the woman who plays grown up that same character doesn't. So it is weird. And then Alex Wolff definitely does not have an accent. And then adult him doesn't have an accent either. But then kid him did have an accent, so it is weird. Yeah, it's like they didn't ask for each actor to have the same consistent
Right.
voice.
Well, I think Gael Garcia Bernal was just using his natural act because I've seen him in like interviews and stuff, and that's how he actually talks.
Yeah, well, him and Vicky Krieps, is that how you pronounce her last name?
Yeah.
From Guadalajara.
Yeah, they use their natural accents.
And to me, the kid sounded American. I didn't hear the little girl didn't sound French to me at all. That's why I was like, wait, what? What about you, Jonathan? What was your general
Yes. I don't know if this is gonna be a surprise to anybody, but I really like this movie.
That doesn't surprise me at all. What are you
Yeah.
You are the positive one.
And this is not going to be a situation, and I hate to bring this up again, but Malcolm and Marie, where it doesn't age well, or even In the Heights as a more recent example, where I gave it like a really positive score, but then thought about it and I'm like, was it really that good? This
one though.
This
one gonna be
hold on really quick. Do you see this part of my wall that I have a Ouija board on, by the way? That is a Ouija board that is on my wall. I'm going to remove it and put up a list of every time a score goes down for Malcolm and Marie. Jonathan's score for Malcolm and Marie. Every time it goes down, I will get up and I'll just
move it
down a little more.
So I'm good. It's staying there.
I know, but I'm going to get a score thing for him. Every time he mentions my grade going down for Malcolm and Marie, then it's going down. But go on, Jonathan.
I've learned through this podcast that whenever I'm so on a movie, I shouldn't be too quick to give it a high score. I should probably keep it in the middle. This one I wasn't so on. I left the theater being like, ooh, yes, I really enjoyed that. And now I actually kind of want to read the graphic novel. I agree that, especially for me, the first maybe quarter of the movie, some of that dialogue was just like really choppy and like it was being, I think the main perpetrator was Ken Lung.
Yeah.
At some points, absolutely. It didn't even look like he was acting at certain points in like a bad way. And I've seen him in other stuff and he's a good actor. So I don't know what happened here. But once we got to the actual like meat of the story, and once we got to the very end and like they put it all together, I was really satisfied. And I had an enjoyable time along the way too. And typically in some types of movies, I like have a tendency to, if it's not engaging me, if this scene is taking too long, if there's nothing happening, I'll just like zone out. And I didn't do that at all during this film. So that's a success for me. And I had a good time with it.
There was no hour-long basketball, so that's why Jerome was completely engaged the entire time.
Jerome felt very personal with that.
I just wanted to make that joke because that still made me laugh. In a movie called Space Jam, the basketball bothered me. I don't know.
Bothered me that there was no jam in her space in that movie.
Look, I got the Toon Squad treats right here. There's cartoon LeBron right there. I can still support in other ways. So what do you guys say we get into the spoilerness of it all? This is your spoiler warning. If you have not seen the movie or don't want to know spoilers, then now's your chance to hop off, and we'll see you next time.
Well,
Anyway.
no, we'll see you back here after you watch Old and then come back and finish the rest of the episode because you want to hear all the podcast
exactly.
goodness that's going to be delivered right now.
Pause the video, watch Old, come back, listen to the rest the same day. All right, now let's start with the good. I feel like let's not get into too much of any of the critiques that we have, but from your guys' reviews, it doesn't seem like you guys thought it was like no one here thought it was like horrible. It's just that we can talk out some of the stuff. But
Yeah,
let's talk about any of the good.
Way too harsh on this movie from the like watching Twitter and stuff. People being like, "Oh, it's laughably bad." I'm like, it's not that bad. Like it is not that bad at all.
Anybody trying to call this movie a bad movie of M. Night Shyamalan needs to remember The Happening, where the plants attack, and The Last Airbender. They still exist, and those were his greatest crimes against humanity. All right.
But you have some people comparing this to The Happening. Some people think this is like on that same level.
Which I don't understand why. The Happening made no sense, and all of a sudden the plants attack. Like, what the fuck? No.
That's what I mean. That's why I'm like, this movie, at least The Happening is just like a movie where stuff happens and none of it ties together at all. This movie has a coherent plot. And by the way, characters you actually kind of care about, especially the main family. I cared about the main family.
I did not care about the mom. I wish the mom had died sooner. Look, she was freaking annoying, and she kept being like,
"Okay, let's talk about that then." Okay, the mom, mom did get on my nerves.
Look, we enjoyed the movie, and I here's the good part. I liked the giant lab corporation thing. I thought that was really interesting.
That was a really great twist.
Because usually it is like either a game for rich people, or you're sacrificing people to the beach, or it was. I thought it was going to go along those two routes. Instead, it's this major corporation being like, "Look, it sucks. People are dying, but we're actually also saving people." So I mean, it's kind of, and I don't like that idea. But I found that I do like the idea. Now I like the idea. I like the idea of actually testing a long-term cure in like a 24-hour span, or seeing how long a medicine can last instead of years of research.
It made sense, and it was actually believable and realistic in the world of this.
That was a cool twist. I was like, that's actually a smart idea and makes sense. It's like, or because on paper it sounds evil, but at the same time it's a very utilitarian idea of like, well, yeah, we're killing this one person technically, but at the same time now we're figuring out like way faster than we ever could the cure for cancer. And it's just like, so does the odds justify the means? It's a twist that's cool because it starts conversation.
Right.
Like,
it's like that.
Are they doing the right thing or not?
It's like that ethical gray area where it's like, is this wrong if you're going to save all of these people? If you're going to save all these people's lives with this medicine, when you're going to just risk these people's lives? But my thing is like, I'm sure there's somebody out there who is just willing to volunteer. You don't actually have to.
Well, this is a completely controlled setting though. Because people can try to leave, or they can mess with the experiment. This is kind of very much controlled. You're confined to this space. They're giving you the food and the water. That's it.
Also, the thing is that probably the most people who would volunteer though are people who think like, who would be like so far gone that they're just like, well, I'm going to die anyway. They wouldn't be in the right
mental state.
Yeah, they wouldn't be in the right mental state, or they may not even like, because also remember, they're giving them medicine with them unbeknownst to them. That's all experimental. So it's not like, but it's like, and just waiting to see what happens as they act naturally. If they knew they were taking medicine and what they were doing, they might try and act differently. You know,
There's also the placebo effect. You know, you give people the medication, they're like, "Oh, I'm feeling great. I'm feeling so much better." It's like, actually, you were given the like placebo. This is all just in your head now. This is a real like, I'm seeing it, I'm not seeing it, and now I get to see it through life. And also, I did like how the main dad, was aware that there was a pharmaceutical company involved in everything. When he saw the names at the hotel and things like that, he picked it up. He was like, "Oh, hey, we work with with these people, this pharmaceutical company. They're really well known in the big." So he kind of laid it out there, like, these people are like miracle workers. And he became part of it. Going to the negative, yeah, the mom annoyed me so much. I did not care for the mom at all because one thing she kept shouting about how
She
for the
works at a
kids.
museum.
She works at a museum.
That
She's
was
a
my thing.
curator.
She said that at least like 3 or 4 times. She's
that's
like,
what I
I
mean
work at
when
a
I
museum.
say the doc, and it's not the actor's fault. This is an M. Night Shyamalan thing, and I think this is why people are comparing this to The Happening, because The Happening has some of these dialogue trip ups too, where characters will just say things, but the way they say them makes it seem like it's just a matter of fact thing, and we're not even going to question it. It is what it is, and I'm stating facts to you. Like, I work at a museum. I've worked with bones like this before, and this means this, so therefore that means that. I work at a museum, and it's just like, all right, you don't have to be so matter of fact with me. You sound like robots. All of you sound like robots.
Well, it wasn't even that. Like in earlier scenes with the kids and stuff, like you've already planned to like leave your husband and all this stuff, and he's aware. He's still trying to make it a nice vacation for the children. And he's like, let the kids have this time. Let it be for the kids. You're doing your own choices, and that's fine. He's like, I don't like it, but let's be here for the children. And she just consistently makes it about her, constantly about her. And then they're at a point where he's like, let's not fight. Like, I know you found your own place already in the city. Like, I get it. I get what's going on. And she starts yelling. They're like all about, let's not fight in front of the children. And she's screaming while they're in the next door. So, like, her character I found was just very unlikable. She's just like, he's just like, let's be here for the children. And then she's just doing everything other than being there for the children. She's being emotionally distant from the children. She even goes like, hey, kids, look outside. And then she's texting her boyfriend or whatever.
Yeah. I work at a museum is not the biggest flex when you're dealing with a life or death situation. Coming from 3 people who have worked at a museum before, if we scream that out in a dire situation, I think whoever
here's the
is
thing.
in charge would just be like, don't listen to that.
It's better, although at least she says that a little more convincingly than, my name's Jaron and I'm a nurse. Like, because that's Ken Lung said that like so many times. He's just like, I'm a nurse. I'm like, I know. I don't need you to keep saying you're a nurse.
Now that I think about it, a lot of people were just randomly screaming out their credentials in the movie. Yeah, because at that one point where he was about to swim off and he was like, I was on the swim team, the people behind me in the theater laughed.
I laughed at when he's like, and people in the theater with us laughed when like he's like, okay, who here can swim and think they can swim out this far against this current and then cut left and swim for God knows how much time past that. And I love that the one black dude just walked by like, shit, Negro, please. Like, ain't nobody gonna swim that.
My favorite part was
like,
when they were talking about how they finally figured out. By the way, I feel like it took them longer than it should have. That the aging, happened so rapidly.
Oh, it took them way longer to figure that out than it should have.
That was my other thing. That was my other critique. I'm like, y'all, okay, so y'all took this long to figure out that this beach is aging you, but then once you did, like all of a sudden you have all the answers. Like they had all of the answers.
And they're like dynamos at math, all of them. They were just like, okay, if we age at this amount of time, that means it must be like 6 hours. Therefore, that means 1 year is equivalent to. And I'm just like, whoa, where are you bringing out these statistics from? Who's got a calculator on this beach?
Literally that same day at work, somebody was doing basic math. They were doing like, 2 times 2 equals 4. So we were talking about some stupid stuff. And then like somebody was like, 3 and 7, because if you add I literally sat down on the floor because I was done with their basic math. I was like, no. And they're like, why are you on the floor? I'm like, because she was doing 2 + 2, but then this one's bringing in 3s and 7s, and I'm not having it. I'm done with this day. I'm going to sit on the floor until it's time for me to clock out. That's why nobody ever gets appointments to doctors, because I'm having a mental breakdown in that phone room. Because somebody tries to do basic math, and you're telling me, yeah, in a beach, all stressful situations. One guy's like a rapper. Another one is
I
like
loved his name.
a bone calcium deficient Barbie.
Instagram model.
Yeah.
Yeah.
A schizophrenic. Y'all can do great math. And a museum worker.
Shout out to Midsize Sedan because
He was done dirty the way he got killed. He was
For
more
real.
useful than
Although
any.
he was another one where I was like, okay, if the beach is aging you, how does he still look that young? Like when they arrive, because he's been there since overnight. So
No, it
would have
was
at least
overnight. They showed him when they were on sunrise.
even still, that's hours before they showed up.
Well,
So
there
he
was
still
that
would have
there was
aged
that
a
line
good
there was
bit.
that line about
Oh, yeah.
Black people aging.
Okay, but
It
like
was
Jonathan, you like and Alex, we know the truth. Like you do still visually age a little bit. Like yes, Pharrell looks still super young, but if you put a picture of young Pharrell next to current day Pharrell, you can at least see small tinges that he's aged. So it's like
and the woman Patricia, she did age as well. You can tell that she
so
was
it's like
aging.
you can tell. That's just a saying people say. Which that was one of the best jokes in the movie.
And actually,
if
you think about it too, the kids by the next morning were going from like he was 6 to 50. So yeah, if he was, let's say, there overnight or multiple hours, yeah, it should have had some effect. I will say, yeah, with the consistency of aging was not done well. They didn't seem to actually figure out the timeline. It almost appeared to have affected the children more than the adults. Their excuse was, "Oh, when you get older, your body doesn't change as much as children's." True, but wrinkles happen very quickly, and
Right.
like going back to that comment of two of them being black. If you're French, that's like really white. That's like sun damage there. That's
There
like
was
decades and decades of sun damage being done. And if when she stabbed him with that rusty knife and that caused tendinitis.
or tinnitus.
Tinnitus, thank you. Tendinitis is when you're tinnitus. That happened in seconds. So all those people should have had sun damage almost immediately.
Well,
Yeah,
also,
there was the really quick, there was when Priska told Guy, "Oh, you're getting wrinkles," and then he turned to the camera and there was no wrinkles.
right.
Like he looked the same. His character looked the same as he had the whole movie.
Also, he already had wrinkles. He was like in his 40s. I have wrinkles.
Well, here's the thing too, is that also it's like I don't know what their makeup budget was, but clearly they assumed, oh well, as long as we do the makeup on the face, people will just know they're old. But it's like, okay, but the body gets older too. Like
And they were all in swimsuits.
doesn't sag, like muscle sags, like certain parts of the body, like body fat starts to, especially as your metabolism slows down, starts to metabolize different. Like certain things other than your face affects you. In the book, they do a really good job of this, but it's a book, it's a comic. They can draw that stuff. In a movie, you have to put a lot of effort and work into that stuff. So because I remember watching the movie and being like, Abby Lee, who plays the model girl, who's like got the calcium deficiency, like later like her bones are kind of protruding and stuff and it's kind of messed up, but for a large chunk of the movie she's aging and her abs and body look just as pristine as they did when she just arrived there, but in her face it's old, and it's like there's no way. Like her abs would probably be gone by now, or at least her hips would be wider or other things. Like
hers was my favorite death though, just because it was so like gruesome and creepy. And when she like was sitting there with
that too, because I was like, this woman is just in need of a diet therapy session where they can break down all them walls that's got her all.
Oh no, she needed calcium.
Right.
Well, yeah, I mean,
Right.
yes, physically, but I mean mentally, she needs therapy. She's telling a 6-year-old girl not to slouch so she can be more attractive to men. Like, you know what I'm saying?
Technically, she
that's
told a 6-year-old don't slouch, and then she looked to the waiter and said it will not be attractive.
that's a level of insecurities that she needs to work out with a therapist.
30-minute marker.
You know what I'm saying? So it's like I like, I didn't feel like she deserved to die that way. I felt bad, even though
I
it was
didn't
like,
either. It was really cool. For me, it was cool to watch because at the end, she looked like when you swat a spider, that's what she looked like all like her bones and everything, all like crumpled
it was
up.
messed up. Yeah.
Jerome, you brought up the camera situation. I did get annoyed with that, with the way they kept trying to pan things, and the way they would just like. It would have been better, yes, if they did more with the aging makeup when they would pan away and then come back, and if they looked older, if the characters looked older. No, they just pan and came back, pan and came back. It only made sense with the kids because they were aging rapidly.
Also, that teenage pregnancy one, like I know
I was just
it's in
about
the
to
book.
mention.
And it is in the book. In fact, a couple different kids. There's more kids in the book, so a couple kids get pregnant and have babies. Granted, the babies don't die though; they live and just get older, and then they become like the next generation or whatever. But nonetheless, the fact of the matter is, like in this movie, it's like he just like all of a sudden, it's one of those things where, and reviews have been bringing this up too, of like it's only really weird because the idea is that at 15 they still have the minds of 6-year-olds.
Well, they put that line in where they were like, "Oh, I feel like my mind is changing as well." Do you remember that?
Yeah, and
Where
I think
she
that was
was
them
like,
trying to excuse and be like, "Oh, well, actually, they are kind of having those feelings and thoughts and going through puberty," and I'm just like, okay, but that seems really flimsy, seeing as we've not seen these characters on screen for like 10 to 15 minutes of this
right.
film.
And my thing was they've known each other and they've been on that beach for like less than a few hours at that point. And so I'm like, so within that time span, y'all got it done as teenagers. I can understand maybe if it was like an adult fling, but as like 15-year-olds, I don't see that as a realistic possibility.
Well,
I see
listen,
it
at
more being
15,
like awkward.
I'm just saying, at 15, you get a little too excited your first time. Just like, I can believe that. It's just one of those things where you don't see like
While your family is like on the other side of the beach.
Listen, you act like there are not teenagers that have done it in the same room as their family. So just don't go there, Jonathan.
It's you, really, Jonathan.
I'm just saying, there's some nasty kids out here. All right.
Teenagers, did you know?
What
kids were you hanging?
Gross teenagers. When I was a
teenager. Okay, Maddox. Why did all of a sudden they let her see all the gruesome stuff? She was still technically like 11, but they were allowing her to see like the decaying bones and everything.
By the time being like age, was she like 16? I think she was like her character's supposed to be 16 at that.
They were no. Hold on, they were 5 years difference because she was 11, he was 6. So they were like 15. So she would have been like, and he was about 16.
I'm going
so it was about like 21 almost.
I'm going based off the IMDb where it's Thomasin McKenzie plays Maddox, age 16.
But then they had to be even younger. Then the kids had to be 11. Now there's a certain point where it was honestly, she was like, all right, let's say 16. That means he would have been 11.
You know what else is confusing is that they let the Alex Wolff and Thomasin McKenzie be just themselves without makeup for a while, even though they're technically still aging. But it's like, okay, so you're telling me from like the age of 16 and 15 all the way till possibly 2021 or maybe even into their 30s, they still look exactly the same. They don't really have that many wrinkles or anything. Like I'm 26 and I already have more wrinkles than I did when I was 20. So, and not that there's much
gray hair too.
Still,
why did nobody get gray hair?
Again, I don't know what that makeup budget was, but it needed to be because bigger for this kind of concept.
it's not, that's not even an old thing because I've had gray hair since I was actually 10 years old. It's just something all hair does. Eventually, just loses certain color and color spots. In fact, the right side of my hair is actually turning grayer than my left side right now. It's kind of weird, but like nobody got gray hair. And one of the characters was already graying. He had like salt and pepper hair. It wasn't until like his final scene, the one who had schizophrenic, which we all thought he had dementia, and then they slip it in near the end. Oh, we shouldn't put the schizophrenic people with the blood clotting people. It ruined our experiment. It's like, why would you put mentally ill patients next to like other? Of course, something can go wrong.
I just hit a point with this movie where I wasn't sure if it was the editing or the cinematography that was messing with me, because I was like, man, this movie's edited weird. Like its pacing is way off, and it is. But also, yeah, that cinematography of because I know the idea is that the characters have not seen these kids aged yet, so they don't know that they've aged. But the thing is that by that point, most of the audience had already kind of figured out, oh, people are aging. So it's weird that and I think it's also that the cinematography choices, some of them linger. Like there's a shot where it's the older other girl, Kara, and the older son, and they've aged to about, I think 11 or so, and they're talking. And so the shot is if I could simulate it with my camera, it's like this, the whole with Kara's face kind of being in the corner there, and it stays there for a while, and they're having a full-on conversation, and I'm just like,
it's more like the camera got in between the two kids and was looking over their shoulders at the couple who had just come onto the island.
Well, there was nobody in that center of the frame, though. It's just the beach. You just see, I
actually kind of like that scene only because you're talking about the scene where you first see the kids get older, right?
Mm-hmm.
Where you first hear the kids get older. I like that because it was like, okay, you're not seeing their faces. It's mysterious. You know that they're older because you hear the deeper voice of the boy. And obviously their faces are obscured, so you know what's going to happen. And anyone who's watching the movie knows what the concept of it is. And then you lead to the reveal, I guess. But I can see how it'd be off-putting if you're staring at the side of somebody's head for an entire 2-minute scene.
It just was a thing where it's too slow for, I think, what he's trying to do. It's there's being slow with the slow reveal, and then there's being too slow. You want to. I think he should have sped up some of those cuts a little bit of them talking, or just at least used a different angle. Even if it was different angles of obscure parts of their bodies, here's the side of her head, here's one of their hands, here's a tassel from their swim trunks or something. Even if it was something like that, it would at least keep the pacing going instead of feeling like it's slowing down to a crawl for you to do this weird artistic thing that really doesn't feel like it kind of has as much merit.
I see it too, Jonathan.
Thank you. Yeah,
I can see it just buzzing.
Get him.
Is it a moth or a fly? What is it?
It's a fly.
Okay.
He's trying to get some cool air. It's hot out. I will say I thought I liked the camera angles only if they had actually done the aging process more instead of what they were giving us. And also they did not have a steady aging timeline, which also bothered me. Which, how are your kids gonna, you already look like an old mom and dad, right? You're clearly in your 30s to 40s. But it's not until your children are finally 20 that you're dying now, because they don't hit 50 until the morning, which means 40. So they're 30 maybe in the evening. You're not that old.
Well, that's the thing. I think they were supposed to be 60 or 70, but because they don't look that age at all. But I think that's the implication, only because they survived for a long time, and if we go by their math, that's how old they would have been by the time they die at the end of the movie.
60 or 70?
About 60 or 70.
Which again, they
didn't look that old.
They didn't look that
old.
Right.
They didn't look that old at all.
They were just suddenly old. And it doesn't work that way.
Also, so it pisses me off that he's getting cut And he can't. Yes, he can't
Oh,
see,
yeah.
but he has he's doing this with one arm, so he can use the other arm to like wave at his wife and be like, "Would you turn around? I am being stand up. I know you can't hear me, but turn around."
Also, she was completely deaf in one ear, but she could hear out of the other ear.
Right, you would still hear
can-
that
because he was screaming. They made it seem like you can only hear it one ear at a time. No, the dude was screaming, and the
That's
other
not how
man was
sound
yelling.
works.
Yeah, sound travels. It goes everywhere. It may have been lower, but it would have made it over here too. Because when Cheddar meows from here, I can still hear it in this ear. Yeah, that part was, and the part where it's supposed to be self-sacrificing. She leans over him, protects him, and covers him. And it's like, no, you could have just whacked him over the head with a log, the guy who's trying to kill your husband, or two, push him hard enough, pick up your husband, and both of you run. Instead,
Right.
you get stabbed in the back, weakens you, and then you leave him as he continues to get stabbed. And what is with the guy? The way he's just like, why would he not just actually stab him like he did mid-sedan? Why is he stabbing him like it's just like slashing?
He's I don't know if the character of the doctor is a completely original idea, but his whole thing that he's got going on with the schizophrenia and everything is, the doctor's not an original, he is in the book, but in the book he's just a racist, and that's pretty much it. Versus in this, he's got schizophrenia and all this other stuff going on.
I also got that vibe from the movie as well, that he had some
they made it
racism.
that way.
At first I thought it was because he sees mid-sized sedan on the beach, and then he's like, babe, let's move. And I was like, oh, I see how it is. Young, handsome dude. You see him in the back. You think he's going to steal your wife because you're an old man with a wife who's way too young for you. But then later on, I'm like, oh, no, it's you just don't like black people. Okay,
but then in all fairness, there was just some random dude sitting on the rocks staring straight ahead
with a bloody
nose. With a 1,000-yard stare. I'm going to move a little bit too, no matter the race or actually gender. I just see somebody with a 1,000-yard stare. That means that's not good. Something happened. Something's going to happen. Or they're like gone up there, and I'm just like, I'm going to.
Also, in that Shyamalan, you've written for Samuel L. Jackson twice in both Unbreakable and Glass. You know how to write black characters. At least write them so they don't sound stereotypical and dumb. Why is half this man's dialogue, damn? Just varying levels of damn. That's like because he doesn't have many lines in this movie. So that's like, like what? Why do you think that's every black person's reaction to stuff going down?
I did like, speaking of M. Night Shyamalan, I did like that. Like some of his other movies, he acted in this as well. But for
that's
this
par
one,
for the course, Yes.
Right. For this one, I did appreciate, some directors, when they put themselves in, they'll just have like a little cameo. But for this one, he actually was like a pretty integral part of the plot. And I appreciate that. He wasn't just there just to be there. He was there to actually be a part of the plot at the beginning and the end.
Fired.
It didn't feel like a cameo, though. It didn't feel like a cameo. He actually felt like an actual actor in his film.
Yeah, because I thought it was going to be a cameo of him just driving them there. I didn't think he was going to show back up again at the end. That was a legit surprise. Although he's been a character before. He was a character in Lady in the Water.
I haven't seen it.
I don't recall.
Also, did you know he wrote Stuart Little?
Yeah. I keep seeing that on TikTok a lot. People are like, oh, I just watch Old. But you know what my favorite movie of his is? Stuart Little. And I'm always like, I don't want to. Why do you keep doing that to me? Making me remember that. I don't want to remember that. That's such a weird. It makes sense. It actually makes sense. The movie makes sense because who adopts a rat? There are children in an orphanage. But yes, let me bring you home.
Take the rat.
And then everybody just normalizes the rat, and then they demonize the child, his Georgie, because he's like, "Are you guys kidding me? This is a mouse. It's a mouse." And the whole family's like, "How dare you? How could you be so cruel?" Dude, he's not wrong though.
Listen, Stuart Little is supposed to be a cautionary tale that you just, no matter what a person looks like or where they come from, you're supposed to accept them for who they are. Okay?
It's still a mouse.
See, clearly you didn't get the message. All right, you didn't get the message. The closing thoughts for Old is this movie is not going to age well.
Get out.
Pun
Get
out.
completely intended. But
Get out.
also,
Get out.
the reality is that I feel like there's a lot of artistic choices in this movie that sometimes they do pay off and they're cool. I did love the spinning camera when the girl was like giving birth to like the baby. That was really tension filled and really exciting. And so I was like, okay, it works here. That's great and really cool. There's a lot of stuff going on at the same time. And instead of doing like a bunch of cuts to different shots, it's like it's all one shot and a lot's happening at the same time. You feel like you're kind of there. So I like, and there's multiple moments like that where I'm like, that's really cool. There's also some interesting ideas that he does with this concept. I will say the one thing I thought was weird is that I feel like it's just like after you get the initial breakdown of what the concept is, well, for the character's sake, because most people can figure out what's going on pretty early on. But once the characters figure out what's going on, it then just becomes this series of scenarios of like, well, if you're aging, what happens if you're pregnant? Well, if you're aging, what happens if this happens? What if you've got a calcium deficiency? What happens? Like, and while it makes some really cool scenes, I don't know if it just makes a altogether really concrete story as you reach the ending of the movie. It does come together really well with the twist at the end with the medicine, the pharmaceuticals company. But I think just before that, it just feels like it's kind of just a series of things. And I think the only reason why is because the book is like that. From the little snippets of the comic I've seen, it's not really like it has this overarching story. There's the pharmaceuticals company. That's not a part of the plot. It's just these people end up on a magical beach. They start aging, and that's kind of the story from that point forward. And then it's just a series of scenarios where you get to see people interact in this weird scenario. So it's like, when that's
So what would you grade it when?
Well, I would say I definitely grade this probably for me personally like a C- to maybe a D+. Like it personally for me, it's just kind of loses steam as it goes. It starts out pretty solid, but it loses steam. Also, that dialogue, you gotta work on that dialogue in Night Shyamalan. But I will say though, if you're listening to this review and you don't know where to gauge that from our review or other people's reviews, I will say this is a movie that I think you need to watch for yourself to deem if you like it or not, because this is just my opinion. But I've seen a varying degrees of opinions on this movie, ranging from people who think it's trash to people who think it's like really, really interesting. So this is a movie you got to see for yourself, is like also a caveat I want to leave you guys with.
Jonathan, what about your like grade and closing thoughts?
I agree that I can see how this movie can have a varying degree of opinions on it. For my opinion, I would probably have to give it a B+. I really enjoyed the movie, even though there were the things that we talked about, like the dialogue, like some of the maybe inconsistencies. I enjoyed it fully. Those didn't necessarily take away from my enjoyment of the film. I thought it was very fun. I thought it was very cool. A very cool concept overall, even though it's based off of source material. I thought that the concept that they imagined through like cinema, I thought M. Night Shyamalan and crew and cast executed it very well. I also liked the song that was played at the beginning and at the credits. I enjoyed that song, the song that the daughter was singing along to at the beginning when they were in the van. And then it also played at the end credits. I actually Shazammed it in the movie theater. And I will be adding that to my...
You should be having your phone on.
No, it was during the credits. I Shazammed it at the end. So yeah, I'll be adding that to my playlist. And yeah, I just thought it was overall a fun time with some inconsistencies and some wooden acting, but overall, I thought it was fun. And I'm definitely going to be picking up the graphic novel as well, just to see how it compares.
You can get it on Comixology for like $14 if you want to read it virtually.
Although I like the physical copies.
I do too. I'm just letting you know, like if you want to cheat, for those of you out there who read your stuff, digitally, You can find it digitally fairly easy for not too high of a price.
There you go. Sponsor us. And Alex, what is your grade and final thoughts?
I give this movie like a B. I thought it was actually really good. I thought the concept was really good. I like the idea of the pharmaceutical company being in charge. Um, I would like if they had actually put in an actual explanation to why people were aging, instead of just being like, oh, it's they said magnets, you said magic. Like they're like an actual reason would have been nice.
Well, no, they do. They say it's like the mineral is affecting their cells in a particular way that is causing the cells to rapidly
But what does that mean?
Age.
What mineral? What mineral in particularly?
They don't specify a mineral because the mineral doesn't exist
Right,
in real
it's
life.
literally
There's
like-
no mineral to say.
But it's literally like
it doesn't exist.
But it's literally like a cop out. It's the minerals. How though? How are they?
How did it get here? Why is it
Yeah,
Okay,
this?
but
This
that's all
is the
this?
part-
sci-fi. There's no explanation as to how Starfleet got to be as big as it was and unify all these people. What treaty was passed? What people did we talk to? And also, how'd you communicate with the entire galaxy to get everyone together? They don't take time to explain all that because it's like it's just a sci-fi world. With everyone
no,
is-
they started joining together once they developed.
How?
I'm not getting into that.
Anyway,
That's not the point
Alex,
of the
continue
subject.
with your thoughts.
Because I could go along with that.
I'm just saying that's sci-fi.
That's no,
how
no,
sci-fi
but no,
operates.
they do have explanations in that show. And this was just a cop out by saying it's the mineral. Well, how? Was the mineral affecting the actual cells of the body? Or was it because just affecting that? And technically, that comment he made about nails and hair being dead isn't true. Your nails and your hair are alive. These things, just because they're out of your head, doesn't mean they're dead. They're still
True.
alive. They're a
I
living
agree.
organism.
I did call
Yeah.
him out on that. I was like, that's not true. Nails,
Yeah.
nail cells and hair cells are very much
Because
alive.
that would be weird if you have dead things on you.
Right.
So there was just a lot of inconsistencies also with the aging and the makeup that bothered me. But all in all, I thought it was an enjoyable movie. I thought it was fun. I liked the concept. The main family, the mom, it was mainly the mom, annoyed the fuck out of me. But I mean, it was a good film, and for the first time of seeing a movie in theaters in a long time, it was an enjoyable film to see. I didn't regret it or anything, and I recommend people go see it. And it's not for a thriller slash. It was, I guess, it was technically horror in a way because you're losing people, you're dying, they're dying in like
Some of the
serious ways.
gruesomeness, yeah, was
It was.
definitely horror.
It wasn't for people who, we have a friend who doesn't like blood and gore. This movie is not bloody and gory, but it'll still shake you. And it hits you at some point because it is about aging, which something people may not ultimately fear, but there is a subconscious fear of growing old and rapidly in such a way. All I could think was like,
although I do have to say that incision scene that got me a little bit. The incision.
It didn't get me, but I thought it was freaky though when it's like the tumor is like the size of like like basically a cantaloupe.
yeah.
Right.
Rippling out of her. I was like, oh my god, like she's gotta be dead.
Yeah, that's it. Which actually didn't bother me because of the place where I work and the pictures I see. I work at a doctor's office. Let me rephrase that. Just put that out there. I see emergency cases photos too. I'm the one who gets. Anyway, so I say like a B. I think it's a good film. I would recommend it. I think the pacing was a little off, and I think the aging needed to be better. But the concept, and it was a beautiful beach too. I want to go to a tropical island. I don't care if it ages me like 10 years.
I will say, yeah, that's the one thing they got is like, didn't have to worry about location because it all takes place on one location and a beautiful one at that because it's like great shots
Yeah.
of the water and the beach and everything.
Right. This totally could have been. Apparently, they filmed this in 2019, but this totally could have been a movie that they filmed in COVID times because
I
it
will
seems
say,
very.
I did
COVID
point out there was a
friendly.
scene where the young girl Kara was saying, "Oh, we don't have any of these memories. We don't have memories of going to school, going to prom, this and that." And I just leaned over to Jerome. I'm like, she sounds like every teenager in 2020 right now. So I was like, it's technically a very relatable film to them.
Yeah.
I did think about that where I was like, man, this movie ends with the kids being 50 and they're coming back home, but I'm like, 50 is not that like that's I mean, yeah, at 50 you could still do a lot of stuff, but even still, it's like, man, we have missed like some great years we could have used.
From 6 to 50 in a day.
You know what I'm
And I also
saying?
I did appreciate how they did a flashback on how they actually got out, because I feel like a lot of movies, they would just, oh, we got out, we're free, yay.
I like the
Wouldn't actually
flashback. I think
flashback.
the only thing that upset me about the flashback is that it didn't make sense. Where I'm just like, or rather, it seemed contrived. Where it's like, oh, the rock snapped and the coral lifted, so that way they could get out. Not, I grabbed the knife that I know is here and brought it.
Well,
with
no,
me
he
in
actually grabbed
situations
some.
like this.
No, he actually grabbed something way more valuable, which was that notebook that had all the addresses of the people that disappeared.
No, grab that too, and the knife. Grab them both.
Well, actually, the coral breaking and the rock breaking makes sense if they've been aged, because healthy coral is colorful. Dead coral is white and brittle. So technically, it wasn't wrong that everything was breaking, because that coral was not healthy. That was not alive. Also, you gotta watch out for the Great Barrier Reefs, because that's what they're starting to look like. But enough of that.
Protect our coral.
Right?
Coral.
That's shut up. That's the lesson of this movie. Protect the coral.
Yes.
Shout out to Rick Grimes.
Well, that is our episode for today. We hope you enjoyed the movie / our review. Yeah.
Yeah. Where can we find you on socials? I was trying to say that. Calm down.
You can find me at Jonathan Keys on Twitter, Instagram, wherever you please. Alex, where can we find you?
You can find me on Alex and Nobody on Instagram, and I also handle the TikTok account of The First Ones to Die, which is also the name of all our social medias: Instagram, Twitter, Facebook, and even our email, thefirstones2die@gmail.com, where you can go ahead and send in recommendations for scripts for Jerome, if you'd like, or just give him little tidbits about why something doesn't work that you haven't read, because I know he would enjoy that. What about you, Jerome? Where else can they find you to send in their comments about things they have not read of your work?
Yeah. You can find me at Not Jerome Red on Instagram and also at RoboZoo Media. Be on the lookout for concept art that's going up at RoboZoo Media. Trying to get some stuff going and
finally
stuff like that. So yeah, finally we'll start seeing some content on this Instagram page I've been plugging since the first episode. I mean, there's 2 things up there, but they're not enough. We need more. We need more stuff, and that's on me. But that's okay. More stuff's coming. I promise.
And with that, Jonathan's line. On that note.
Thank you. That's my line. On that note, we'll see you next time. You can follow us at The First Ones to Die everywhere. Email us firstones2die@gmail.com, and we will see you for our next episode. Peace out.
Bye.